What is going on, everybody? It is another episode of the Money Talk podcast. I am your host, Billy Zerullo, and we are going to be having a very interesting conversation. This has already been a guest, and she's going to be a guest multiple times throughout the year to help us with all things taxes. Because if you follow me anywhere on Facebook, Instagram, you know I love to kind of talk about all the information that is on there on social media, which is great. I love all the people that are producing a lot of information, especially financially. But also it's a double-edged sword, right? There could be a lot of information out there that could be detrimental, right? At the same time. So that's why I love bringing on experts in their area so that we can help you guys become a little bit better, a little bit more educated when it comes to your finances. And just start to ask those questions. How can I become better at my finances? How can I become more healthy so that I can live the life that I always want to, right? Live life on purpose, so to speak. So without further ado, what we're going to be talking about today are some top tax tips with a CPA. And I'm going to bring on our guest, and Andy is here. So thank you so much, Waymire, from all the way out in California, sunny California. Here in Pennsylvania, it is a nice 32 degrees, brisk 32 degrees. Hopefully it's a little bit warmer where you're at.
It's actually snowing right now because I'm in the mountains.
That is true. Yes, I thought I saw your story and I saw you hanging out at the mountains. So yeah, so that's good. So it's so funny. I always forget California. Are you in California right now?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California too. So you would think it'd be sunny, but it's actually one of the only places that you can go surfing and skiing in the same day. Because you could surf in Orange County and then you could drive like 3 hours to where I live and go skiing.
That is crazy. Are you?
Yeah.
I know you do some skiing, right?
Yeah, I do skiing. Mm-hmm. We have two ski areas.
I was gonna say, are you a surfer too, or just a skier?
No, I tried surfing, but I'm terrible at it.
You would think it would be kind of the same, dynamic, but from what I hear, because I am not a skier, but I am a surfer, and I just fall on skis all the time. So you would think that skill would translate, right? But it really doesn't. So
yeah.
But no, I'm super excited to have you on again and talk about some of these top tax tips because we're in it, right? We're in tax season. For a lot of people,
coming at us.
Yeah. And for somebody that, as a CPA, you run into all different types of people, all different types of businesses. And so I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you the show here. I want you to go through so we have a couple of tax tips here for everybody that is, listening. Also, if you're watching as well, but what is your first tax tip for people out there?
So my first tax tip is to stay organized and just get on top of everything. Don't wait until the week before April and say, oh, shoot, I have to do my tax return. I know different forms start coming in at different times. So what I would do is I would just create a folder like on your Google Drive or even just on your desktop and start adding in all of your tax documents. So if you got like a 1099 from Fidelity, a W-2, maybe your health insurance form, just start adding it to your folder. And that way, when it's time to send it to your CPA or tax preparer, you can send them everything at one time. So this will cut down on your fees too, if they are charging you like an hourly rate, because there won't be back and forth. If you just send everything at once, like They can go through everything, prepare your return, and then it'll be done. So it'll save both of you guys time if you're just organized.
Yeah, I love that. I love the Google Drive too, because you can just share that file with your CPA and boom, you're
Yeah.
done. And that's such a big tip. Any other any other organizational like things that people can use throughout the year to help them
Mhm.
stay organized other than just putting it in a folder? Any recommendations there?
Yeah. So, what I do with my clients is I use a virtual organizer. So, they
Mm,
receive something through an email and it'll ask them questions about their year. Basically, like what sources of income did they have? If they got married, maybe they had a baby. And then the organizer will change and have them upload things related to how they answered the questions. That way, we're not missing anything. So that's a really good way to stay organized is to get an organizer, like a questionnaire from your tax preparer and just go through all of the list of items to make sure you're not missing anything.
yeah, yeah, I love that. I love having lists, checklists. It just makes things a little bit easier on everybody because you know exactly what you need or need to go find, or if you're missing something. It takes a lot of
Mhm.
the guesswork out of it. I would think. Um,
Exactly. And I would also work with somebody that has a good online system with like a secure portal so you can upload your documents to a secure place. And also someone that you don't have to mail them the documents because that's like from the 90s and not fast at all.
the good old fashioned snail mail. And you're right. In this day and age, like there's so many. I mean, I'd rather someone fax something to me rather than mail something to me. It just
Exactly.
the only people that mail you stuff anymore are like grandparents, right? When they're sending you a birthday card or something like
Yeah. Don't get
that.
me wrong, like, I love getting postcards and, like,
Yeah.
fun cards in the mail, but I hate getting tax forms, like, anything that can be electronic, I would just prefer that way.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And 9 times out of 10, those electronic forms are a little bit more up to date. You don't know what kind of information you're dealing with. That could be, I get it all the time. Somebody sends you a quarterly statement, and it's like a quarterly statement from like 4 years ago, and you're like, I can't do anything with this.
Yeah.
um, cool. So stay organized, guys. Do that. That's a really big tip. Moving on to tip number two. What do you got for
Mhm.
us?
Um, my second tip is to find a tax preparer or a CPA that fits what you need specifically. In your business. So, not all CPAs are the same. Maybe you're just looking for someone to do your return one time and that's it. But maybe you're a little bit more developed in your business or you have other stuff going on and you want to work with someone to help you strategize and really lower your tax liability. So, I would find somebody that you can work with quarterly or monthly or even just at the end of the year to do tax planning. So basically, find someone if you're in need of that to develop a relationship with and work with on a consistent basis. If
Yeah,
you're not ready for that, just find somebody to do your tax return. If you're a business, I wouldn't recommend doing it yourself just because you might miss out on a lot of the deductions that you wouldn't know about if you're not a tax expert.
yeah. I think that's what people, and I know you see it on social media a lot, and this is something I preach, a lot is because there's a lot of people out there throwing around tax advice, how to mitigate some taxes, how to get around the taxes and stuff like that. But as a CPA, your job, your degree is understanding the tax code in the sense of, hey, like this is what you can do, this is what you can do, and also like being able to defend why. I know you've ran into that a couple of those situations where you actually have to
Mhm.
defend why this is the way it is, right?
Yeah. Also, the tax law changes all the time. And so it's so hard to keep up on that if you don't get paid to do it, because it's also painful to learn that just for fun. So
It's
I
actually
would
for
I would
fun.
hire somebody that learns that stuff on a consistent basis and knows what they're doing.
100%. Yeah. I don't think anyone has ever said taxes and fun in the same sentence. Because I've tried to read some of those, some of the tax codes and stuff like that. And it's written in a way that it can be confusing to somebody that doesn't know what they're looking for. Right.
Totally, yeah.
So, so those are two big ones, so
Mhm.
staying organized, getting
Yeah.
a professional. I think you said something really important there is getting a professional that understands your business too, especially if you're a business owner, like if you're a real estate agent or, construction, you want somebody that understands the ebbs and
Your
flows of your
specific
business.
niche. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you can find a CPA that specializes in construction or, service providers. So, if that's what you're looking for, I would look for what you need, and, I would also take your time with it, like, don't be afraid to interview a couple of different people and see what feels right and who you like working with the best.
I love that. Yeah, because personality is a big thing, right? You want to
Mhm.
like that person that you're going to work with because they're going to know a lot about you personally through your through your taxes.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
they're they're going to know about a lot of stuff that you maybe be keeping from other people. So um, so yeah, so we have those two. So getting a CPA, keeping good records. What's another tip that you might have for us?
So, I'm sure as a business owner, you have questions that pop up in your head all the time, and you're like, oh gosh, like I need to ask a lawyer about this, or I need to ask a CPA about this. I'll do it later. And then you kind of brush it to the side. I would keep a notes app in your phone or even just a notepad of paper. And every time you have one of those thoughts, I would write it down. And then when you have your meeting with your CPA to review your return, I would just go through the list of questions. That way, like, you're more confident going into 2024 and you know what's going on, especially at the beginning, because it's so important to get set up right and have the confidence that you're running your business right and you're in compliance with everything. So that's my next tip. Keep a notes, keep journals. Um, Even if you just email your CPA, like, hey, random question I want to review when we're on our call. You don't have to answer now, but I just don't want to forget about it. That way you just feel good about everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a because I'm that way. Like if I don't write it down or tell that person or just text that person, and it might seem like you said, it might seem like a really random message to you, but just communicating with that person, especially if they're your financial professional CPA, that's so important to be like, hey, we don't need to talk about this right now, but like just keep this on your radar. Or I had this question, especially because like again, going back to like social media, like, if you see something online, like I'm sure you get it all the time. Somebody be like, "Hey, I saw this on TV or I
Yeah.
saw this on
TikTok.
TikTok," right? Like, can I do that? Like, is that something viable? And then you have
Yeah.
to be like, "No, that's illegal," or "Hey, that might be something. Let's check that out and see if it actually works for you." Right?
Yeah, totally. And no question is a dumb question. I just met somebody who they were asking their old CPA a bunch of questions of stuff they found on TikTok. They were like, I heard I could pay my kids because I saw this TikTok, and I heard I could do the Augusta rule, all this trending stuff. And my CPA just told me I couldn't do it. And why was I looking into that? And I'm like, first of all, like, there's nothing wrong with looking into ways to reduce your tax liability, and paying your kids is a legitimate thing. Like, let's look at it for you. I just don't think that any question is a dumb question, especially when you're not familiar with the tax field,
Yeah.
because you could be
Yeah.
missing out on a lot.
And it's like a CPA is not really there to like tell you, no, you can't do this, or no, you can't do that. They want to help you pay less in taxes. Like
Exactly.
that's why that position exists, is for them to understand the tax code enough so that you don't have to, so that they can make sure that you're maximizing the tax code to the best of your ability. One thing I always hear on social media, you brought up the Augusta rule. I always hear Section 179 that you can write off your vehicle if it's 6,000
Yeah.
pounds or more. And that's the one I hear a lot, that I'm like, that's not entirely accurate, but still it's fun to see what people put out
Yeah.
there. All right. So we have taking notes, getting in contact with the CPA or tax preparer that knows your business, especially.
Yeah.
And then like I said, taking good records and keeping good records. So, what's another tip that you might have for us?
So I have more of a technical tip, and
Love
this comes
technical tips.
down this comes down to the S election. So a lot of people are sole props, which means they report their business income on their individual return. And this is okay unless you're netting above like $50,000. If you're netting anywhere between 70,000 and up and you're still reporting as a sole prop, you're paying 100% self-employment taxes on all of that income. So the taxes can go up a lot. If you're making, more than like 60 to 70,000, it's time to look into the S election. And this has to be done before March 15th of 2024 if you want to be an S corp for 2024. And so you have to put yourself on payroll, pay yourself a reasonable salary, and
I love the word that's another thing that always gets thrown out there, reasonable salary, right?
yeah.
You hear a lot of craziness out there when you hear that term.
Yeah, it's a gray area. But yeah, I would look into the S election if you're still a sole prop and you want to save on self-employment taxes. You can also make a late S corp election, which means you make it after March 15th. You just have to include special wording on the form for the reason why you're doing it late. And then you have to catch up with the payroll. So you have to pay yourself even more like later in the year to make it so you had a reasonable salary during all of 2024.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people, have no idea, what an S corp is. But again, that's where having a CPA that can have that conversation with you and say, hey, like, your business is at a place where this makes sense, right? Instead of just being like, oh, well, I need an S corp, right? Because there's a lot of filing, there's a lot of stuff that goes in. It's not just one piece of paperwork. It takes some stuff to get that together. So I think that's really important for what you just said, is going back to, hey, like, have a connection, have a conversation with a CPA that knows your business, because they're going to be able to say, you need to do this, right?
Yeah. I met someone who was doing their own tax return for a few years. They were in real estate. They were making over $400,000 a year, and they were paying self-employment taxes on that full $400,000. And so I was like, this is crazy. We need to convert you to an S corp ASAP. And we converted them to an S corp, and we saved them $50,000 in 2023.
That's
So,
crazy.
yeah, you can do a lot just by converting. So it's important to look at it and just ask a tax professional if you're ready to make the switch.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's a huge boost to that person's business, that they can, use that for somewhere else. That's massive. That's a big time win for that business owner. So, but yeah, goes back to having that conversation with the right person. So we have 4 tips so far. We have our last tip. What is your last tip or your last tax tip for us today?
My last tax tip.
IRA.
Oh yeah. So contribute to your IRA or your SEP or your 401k. You can do this by the time you file your tax return. So if you're extending your tax return until October, you have until October. But if you're filing by April, which is the deadline, April 15th, you have to make that contribution before you file your tax return. And my biggest piece of advice is look at your tax return, see how much you need to contribute, and then make sure you have the cash set aside to make that contribution before you file your return.
Yeah, that another important tip, because you see so many people at the end of 2023 trying to buy all these things that aren't necessarily needed for their business so they can reduce their tax liability. So you're spending all your
Yeah,
income, so you show zero income, so you have zero.
I
That
hate
doesn't make.
that.
It's like you don't need to do that.
Yeah. I love the retirement contribution tax tip because you can't go wrong with making a retirement contribution ever,
Yeah, yeah.
you
You're
know?
you're paying yourself instead of the government, right? You're paying yourself into the future, making an
Mhm.
investment into your future. Because let's be honest, like Andy and I both love what we do, but we don't want to do it forever, and we need to have something set aside so that one day we don't have to do this forever, right? We can.
Exactly. And we wanna
So
really enjoy our retirement.
yeah, yep, 100%. So, those were all awesome tax tips, guys. If you definitely save this episode, go back and watch it. But also, guys, it's super important to have that conversation with the CPA. And guess what? Andy is a CPA, and she'd love to have a conversation with you about your tax situation just to see if it makes sense to work together. So, Andy, give us some information on how they can get a hold of you. Where's the best,
Mhm.
where's the best place to get a hold of you? How can they follow you and get more information for you?
So you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is accounting by Andie, Andie, not the Y. So it's one word, accounting by Andie. And then you can check me out on my website too. It's Thorne Advisors, THORNE, advisors.com. From there, you can fill out a form or just send me an email.
Yeah, I love it, guys. Get in contact with her as soon as you can, um, and just have that conversation just to see what she can do for you. She's great. She's good at what she does, and so make sure you reach out to her. And then hopefully we'll be having Andy on a couple more times this year, so she can throughout the year give us even more tax advice, because we love tax advice. We love tax planning, strategies, all that stuff. So we're super excited for that. So, but Andy, again, I appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, thanks
And
so much for having me on.
yeah, yeah. So, well, anyways, guys, make sure you always check us out for another episode of the Money Talk podcast. We will be seeing you next time, and have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one, guys.